Yo, 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 yo. What up, everybody? Good morning. We're filming this early in the morning, so yeah, life's busy. But today we got back, of course, the one and only Roberto. What up, bro?
What's up, man?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, to everybody.
Mexicanos. Yeah, man. How you doing? How's life? How's all your projects?
I mean, I'd say overall life is alright. Projects are good, busy, exciting. You know, to not go into details, but it's good.
Cool. Do you not want to go into detail?
Yeah, we can, but you didn't ask me.
No, well, that's what I'm asking. Like, how much in detail do you want to get? Like, do you want to go into detail? Do you not?
However into detail you can get me.
Ooh. What kind of pieces are you doing? I know you're painting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you're trying to build your portfolio, right? Or you're trying to just build your...
Well...
Or what are you doing?
The painting isn't to build my portfolio. Painting is just like for mental health reasons, I'd say. And just to create outside of design. Not that the painting doesn't revolve having to think about design, but it's more so for myself and for the reason why I wanted to create that painting was to sometimes I have this idea and it needs to takes a form. It could be like a poem, it could be a video or whatever it needs to be is it's gonna be. And this specific idea was a painting, and it revolved around a current issue. So my intentions were to...
This is that chain link one. The chain link fence one?
Yeah. So it was to address something and to also... because I haven't painted in a while, and painting always brought joy. And I thought it could be a nice thing to do, and also it was to fund and donate whatever if it were to be sold, to be able to donate those funds.
Is it like, because sometimes like in terms of painting, is it like, because how do I explain this? Or how do I ask this? Sometimes for me, even though I'm doing something, when it becomes a task, you know what I mean? Like what I'm asking, I guess, is is painting fun because it's not like a responsibility, like working in design could be, you know what I mean? Like when you're designing whatever, when you're working on a design for somebody, for something, that's your job. That's a responsibility. Is that why painting is fun? Because that's not a job? You get what I'm saying? Because I know obviously you enjoy designing, right? But is that why you're like painting? Like you decided to paint? Aside from the fact that you wanted this to live in a painting and not in another medium. You get what I'm asking?
Yeah, I get what you're asking. And I'd say that, work is work, but I love the work that I do, not necessarily what I create. in that sense, but what I
Yeah.
um
The process of.
my job, I say,
Yeah.
you know. So it's and kind of going back a little bit for painting, I haven't painted in a while. And also with painting is it's just been something that has been with me since I was very young. And I remember wanting to be a like a like a Renaissance painter, you know, somebody that painted realistic paintings like those you see in books or in ceilings in these really old cathedrals. And I'm not sure why, you know, but ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a painter, and um, it just became what I did. I mean, I didn't paint till I was in high school or middle school, but I drew with intentions of becoming a painter. But I would say that painting is well, going back to your question, is not about so much of me doing this task or looking at it as a, even though I do, you know, to some extent, it's also a matter of enjoyment. I mean, it's difficult, you know. It's difficult to create things for various reasons, you know, because it puts you to work to some extent, and it's but I enjoy the process, you know, and I love it, and it's a part of me, and it has been for a very long time. Whether it's any sort of medium that allows me to create, and the the most that uh, the medium that I'm mostly hanging out in is design. Not that that's necessarily a medium, but the space.
And what is this piece? How big is it? Because it looked pretty fucking big. Because you did a live, right? You did a live, and you were kind of doing your thing. How long did that last? Because I was going in and out I think, because you like joined with my brother. He did music while you were painting, and I think he was getting caught by the copyright of Instagram, and the live kept on getting pulled, and you guys. So I kept on like, kind of zooming in and out of it. But how long did that go? Like 3 hours, 4 hours?
I want to say I don't even know how long is alive, but I think we must have done 3 sessions.
That same night though.
Yeah, continuously. I think with 15-minute breaks or so.
Mm.
And that painting is, I believe, 36 by 40 something.
Oh shit!
It's like
So 3 feet, 3 feet by 3.5 feet.
almost
42 by, or is it 48? 40. So it's a 4 by 3 feet. 4 foot by 3 foot.
I don't know. I know it's like 40 by 30 something. So it's
Around that. It's a big piece.
Yeah, it's pretty large, but I wanted it to be large, and I have two pieces, so they're I forget the type of wood that it is, but it's wood, and I cleaned it up, and I spoke with a friend who's more knowledgeable in the matter of
Yo, let her know that we could hear.
Yeah, so I spoke with a friend who's more knowledgeable, and he gave me a lot of tips on what type of wood or how to make sure it's properly made or prepared.
Wood for what? For the canvas itself or for the frame?
Both. So from choosing the wood, kind of sizing it right and preparing it right.
So you built the canvas?
It's not a canvas, but
So it's not like this.
it's not canvas. It's all wood.
So instead of this
It's
canvas
wood.
piece, it's one piece of wood,
Yeah. Mm.
and it's a white piece of wood, or
Well, it's white now because I put gesso.
oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And gesso is a foundation.
It's funny. Like I knew we were gonna talk about this. I was actually gonna give that canvas to him in case he wanted it because I don't have a use for it, and yeah.
He has all these props back there just in case.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean you put gesso, so it's kind of like when you put what's that coating?
Primer.
Yeah, kind of like I guess so.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know,
Yeah.
but to me, I feel like that's what it is.
Oh, that's dope. And then what? I think I know what it is, but what is it? Like what are you trying to convey, and what's the image, if you don't mind, or if you want to wait
Well,
till it's done.
It was an image that, because sometimes I have images in my head, and I kind of just kind of keep them in a drawer, let's say, and as time passes by and as my views or philosophy grows, those ideas grow, or maybe I get rid of them, because they don't align with whom I am, or they don't really represent something that not that I don't believe in, but that maybe it's not worth sharing. So I don't know how old this idea was, but it lived with me for a bit, and it kind of transformed into being a chain link fence, kind of like a crop of zoomed in cropped of a fence, so you can tell where it ends and where it starts, and it'll have two. I'm not too sure exactly how many, but originally it was gonna have a lot of I don't even know how to say it in English, but the butterflies, the
Monarchs.
Yeah, monarchs. And there would be all through. There were gonna be all throughout the fence, kind of like in different ways.
Is it because that's the symbol for immigrants?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So eventually, it became was as I was doing it, I kind of cut them down, and for reasons being that not everybody makes it, and even within the actual migration of the monarchs, a lot of them die, on the way, and in their really long journey. And they travel long distances, to their destination, and where they flourish and transform. But they, I guess it. Well, I don't guess it's a representation of immigrants, and nobody within, not specifically talking about anyone, but just because the immigrants come from all over the world, so it's not just about one country or the other, but everybody, and it was a piece that to kind of represent a small motif of that experience, and it'll continue to maybe change, but not so much from that. I may add something. I'm not too sure yet, but.
And you're gonna sell this? Are you gonna auction it, sell it, to donate it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to sell it and donate that money, because also And I'll get back to
to what? Just
your
yet, like
brother.
what organization or
wait, what?
is it
Oh,
the money? You don't know yet.
I'm not sure which one. I need to look into that and see, because I like to spread out. I mean, depends on how much it is, but I like to spread out the funds through different organizations. That I could help, or we could help. So because it'd be nice if the money can be spread through
Hmm.
through different avenues. But what was I gonna say? I'm not too sure. But going back to your brother, he was doing some like live DJ sessions, right?
Yeah.
And I like the music that he plays, and so I just hit him up and I was like, "Yo, you down to do this?" And to kind of also, and for me, to was a way to set up some kind of schedule, or for me to do it and get it started.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find an excuse to not do it, or begin to do it.
It was a way to force yourself to do that, like to have to do whatever, like to start, like you said. Fuck.
Yeah, because
I'm all fucked up this morning.
for me, painting it's also very delicate. It's a very delicate space, and it's a space that I very much appreciate, and I value, and it's very sacred. So it's sometimes I have to be in a certain space to be able to be comfortable, or it varies. I don't always have to be in that space, but yeah. And I also wanted to allow other people to see your brother doing his thing,
Yeah, I mean, I hope to one day have him in here, but yeah, it's
Yeah, your brother's very talented.
yeah, I feel so. I just don't want to speak too much without him being here. Like, that's why I'm like pausing. In that sense, like I feel like he's a very creative dude.
Yeah,
He seemed to
100%.
be like, all right, we back. I was saying how he was creatively in front of the curve when before everybody starting. As far, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but like on the small shows, regional shows, the lighting and the production people would do, he was, again, I'm not a fucking professional in this world. I didn't go to hundreds of thousands of shows, but he was the first to like incorporate. You know how, like, for example, like a VHS or TV, when they start to cut out and it does like that fucking, like a scratch tape, that type of effect visually for the production. And then he would make videos himself of like songs he would make or whatever, and he'd incorporate that and like these just like almost like hallucinogenic mixes of different video clips, and like he'd mix them. And now you see like the first one I think I noticed was Post Malone. He had a video was similar to that, and then DJ Khaled had one, and a bunch just started coming out with that type of effect, that type of feel. And I think that I'm not saying that they got it off of him, but I was just saying that creatively he seems to be like in that world, you know what I mean? Like if he were to somehow get with somebody, he'd make it big, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like because he's creative, he's so creative, he's creative enough to make a name for himself in that world, whether it be music wise or production wise. Because I mean everything that he does, he's learned himself, so he he loves it, obviously, whatever, whether it be music or whatever. So, yeah, I think he's really fucking creative.
Yeah.
But I think he's, without like revealing too much of him or like putting shit out here. But I think it's funny every time you're on, I say this, but I think he's an introvert. I think he's like a true like to himself. Doesn't give a fuck about anybody else. Doesn't doesn't care. He just lives his life. Like, genuinely doesn't care about anything else. And he's very to himself, very almost homebody. But yeah. So
Well,
also, I think I'm gonna make a shirt that says introvert, just because I say that a lot. I'll make a shirt and that'll be our first like merch drop. It's gonna say just introvert. It'll be like in like a weird color or something. I don't know. But,
sure.
It's my merch ideas. But
yeah, I agree. Your brother is very talented. So I asked him. I asked him if he'd be down to do it, and he was, and it was dope because it was nice to be in that kind of scenario. Not because I like the attention, but just because I was kind of creating something while at the same time somebody else was also creating something, and it was just a nice space to be in, because I don't care whether people see it or not, so that was nice, that part was nice, and it was cool, and the music was good. And another reason why I made the piece or wanted to paint too was because I mean, technically I can, but I'm not. Well, not that I'm not able, but it's I'd say it's a bit difficult for me to be in protest, not because I can't, because it's been very frustrating to want to be there and want to do more. Not that I'm not doing anything, but do more on top of what I'm doing. And for me, that's something that I'm very passionate about, helping people, and especially in that way, when it comes to injustice and discrimination and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it's been difficult in that way because it's frustrating, and it's I think my last protest that I went to was in downtown for, I think it was during the DACA era, like the beginnings of it. That was the last one, and after that it got
the one you and I went to. It was at City Hall. It was like towards the afternoon. I think Mexico was playing or something that day too.
Was the were the white supremacists there?
No.
Then I went after. Yeah. Yeah, that was the last. So that one and the one that I went to after, that was the last one. And after that, not that things got serious, but
your schedule?
No, it's not about my schedule. It's not about being busy. It's more about my where I am now, and what the consequences can be for me. I have a lot to lose, and I say that with the reason why I say that is because if I get arrested is my whole case in this country is done.
Yeah.
It's done and over with. I mean, it could be, but most likely is very slim chances that it'll be a positive outcome after that. And or if anything with my record, um, it's my whole case is so for those reasons it's very frustrating to not be able to participate and stand with people and stand next to them in those protests, you know.
I don't know. I mean, not to get sidetracked, but I don't know if we talked about this before, but growing up, were you like afraid of that or not? Did you not like? Because for me, when when I was younger,
of protest?
no, of getting arrested.
No.
My thing was like, if I do this, then I'm gonna get arrested and I'm gonna get deported.
Oh.
You know what I mean? No matter what it was that I knew was negative or I knew I could get in trouble, like even partying, like in high school, right? I didn't party as much as I think I would have because of that. You know, me personally, I'm sure other people in our situation didn't give a fuck, but I'm just saying, me personally, I was like, yo, if I'm at a party and I get caught, I mean, I didn't know I wasn't gonna get in trouble because if I wasn't drinking or if I wasn't doing anything necessarily illegal, right? But my process was, you party, police come, you get arrested, you get deported. That was my sequence.
Yeah.
And I mean, now I know that's not how it works, but that was my mentality growing up. Like, you can't fuck up, because if you get fuck up, you're getting deported.
Yeah, I mean,
and I mean, I'm saying that because that's kind of the mentality now, that you can't fuck up, because if you fuck up, you get arrested, then that process is fucked.
Yeah, and the reason, I mean, that's sorry, but the that's the reality of a lot of immigrants, you know, and that's sort of induced into your day-to-day life, kind of that fear, and it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. And for me, I mean, because I feel like maybe somebody could say, yeah, you can still go to a protest and nothing could happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I'm a very passionate person, and it's it can be difficult being in that space. Not that I'm a violent person or anything like that, but it'll be very difficult for me to see somebody get mistreated.
Yeah. And just be a bystander.
And to stand there,
Yeah.
So it's it's difficult. But it's a reality of a lot of immigrants for sure growing up, but I wasn't fearful. I didn't really care, to be honest. Yeah. And I think the reason why I didn't care was because where I grew up, I grew up seeing a lot of people abuse their power, specifically the police, and I kind of as many I felt a certain way about them, and I just didn't care about them, so and I also maybe it was like the feeling of now being really free in this country, and being an immigrant and being undocumented, and it kind of put this constant person right in front of me, that it's always reminding you of like who you are and who you're not. And I think for me to kind of counterbalance that, that was my way to counterbalance it, to not really care about that, and to live how I could or how I wanted to. But as I've gotten older and kind of built a life, I say it's difficult to move how I did before. It's like I said, I have a lot to lose, and
Yeah, I mean, before you didn't have the opportunities you have now. That's,
No,
I mean,
so it's
you know what I mean. Before you were just growing. Now you're like, you're producing that growth. You know what I mean? That those opportunities to grow. Before you were just kind of
yeah. I
not
mean,
existing, but you were just kind of becoming.
yeah. I mean, I've been very blessed.
I mean, we were, we
Yeah.
all were, you know, whatever.
I've been very blessed, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities I've been given, and so it's also because it's not about me anymore. I represent my family and also
Yeah.
the people that I work with, and I have a lot of responsibilities. So it'll be very irresponsible for me to continue to move how I used to move and not consider who I may affect, whether it's emotionally or financially. So
Yeah.
it's
You know, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, one thing that's crazy to me, and I always think, like, I mean, just on this topic of immigration and stuff, is like me and my older brother were in the same situation that you and I are, but we were completely, I don't want to say completely different, but as people we are, you know, and I could say that he cared a little less than I did in his actions, in terms of fear, in terms of that, like, oh shit, I might get deported or whatever. And then I think about this dude who never had to worry about none of that, but yet we share the exact same blood. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like we're almost the same. I mean, we're not, but you know what I'm saying? Like we're there, and yet he didn't have to worry about anything. Like it's just a trip. Like, and not just. I mean, I always try to put things in perspective, and not to, and that's what I'm sharing, but not to like victimize anybody, because that's not what I'm just saying. That it's a trip. Like fuck. Like we are from the same people. We were growing up the same way, and yet he has zero fear, or should have, of what I fear, or what I'm conscious of, or what I'm careful of, you know. And when I encounter, and you reminded me of this also because you were talking about white supremacists, people who are of that belief, I'm like, yo, you have zero idea. Like, you, like, to not even understand where I stand or how I stand, it's just crazy. It's almost mind-boggling to me, how people don't take the time to understand and just blind, you know, say, nah, fuck you, because get out of my country. You know, it's just, I mean, I just wanted to throw. I mean, I know, I just wanted to throw it out there because it was just something it's something I always think about. It's something I always like. Like I'm like, fuck, like, this is crazy, especially now during all these time, like during this time of just all this chaos and stuff, I guess you could call it. Like I think about, like, man, like this immigration shit, and we were in a national park this past weekend with my girl, and part of the trail, the best part of the trail, was closed off, and and it said you could get $5,000 fine, and or 6 months in jail. So this part of the trail, there was no rangers, there was nobody. People were going past the sign, and people had gone the day before that we've heard, and it was all good and dandy. But my girl turns to me and says, what if you get arrested? What'll happen to you? You know? And it's like, these dudes don't, like everybody else going, they don't have to worry about that. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As simple as that. And I'm like, I thought about it. At first I laughed because I was like, yo, nothing's going to happen. But then I was like, well, something technically can. But, and I, you know, we ended up not going just because the trail itself. But, yeah, like, even for that, although other people did think about it just because they didn't want to get arrested or fined, they didn't have to think about leaving everything that they know behind. You know, because that's essentially what it is. If if I were to get, let's say, a ranger came up and started taking everybody to jail and finding everybody, I'd be in a whole different other process. I'd probably, you know what I mean? That can happen. And everything that I own, everything that I've built, the life I have here can just be gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when somebody else, they could just get a fine, or worst case, go to jail. You know.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's like like I said, I laughed at first when she said that, but then, you know, it was genuine worry for her. Like, oh shit, what if, you know, I'll be fine. She said, I'll be fine, but what if, like, what'll happen to you? You know, so like, am I gonna get deported for going on a trail? You know what I mean? As simple as that.
You could.
You know, so. You know,
and
that's like what I'm saying. And I mean, I told her, I was like, I'm down. I could keep on going. There's no rangers up here. They haven't been coming up here. I was down, but we just didn't go because of another issue, like something else, because of the trail itself. But yeah, I mean, that's something that, like, for example, like that's the example, like that's what I would think about back then. It's like, oh shit, am I gonna get deported if I do this? Like, that's the end outcome. When for other people, it's like, I'm gonna go spend the night in jail. No, for me is leave your whole life behind. Now you go elsewhere and start over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But not today, bitch. Oh, they can't see it. But yeah, the Supreme Court said fuck you, Trump. So you'll see us here for at least another 2 years.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But I think going back to what you're saying about your brother, I understand, you know, that what you're saying, but I also I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like, you know, family members who have the same situation, or nephews and nieces, I think that they can feel it too, you know, and I think that they're a part of it, because their family is a part of it. So I think that the fear or whatever it may be extends onto them, you know, because they're connected to you.
Like fear of them doing something wrong that'll affect us, or what do you mean?
No, because obviously.
Or can you form this in a question to ask him?
No, like, would you care if he got sent back? See?
Oh well, yeah. Well, yeah.
So that's what.
But how does his actions?
No,
Or what do you mean? I'm not understanding what you're saying.
I'm saying that the fear, your fear, if extends onto him, because he wouldn't want you to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that revolves around a lot of families, you know, for your siblings or whoever it may be, that you don't want them to be in that situation, you know. So maybe they themselves are fearful too, because they also maybe have to move differently to even not put you in a situation like that, you know. And the reason why I mentioned white supremacists was because at that last protest that I went to, they were there kind of counter protesting, and it was weird because it was downtown City Hall, and they were on a, I don't know, like in a line, I guess, or in a group, and there was LAPD was in front of them, kind of protecting them, I guess, from us. I don't know. I mean, that's what it seemed like, you know.
Were they facing them, or were they facing the other way?
Their backs were facing them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And
yeah, I mean, at least that's what it seems like. You're not attacking somebody with your back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
so
and they were screaming, you know, not so very nice things. At least when I passed by, so it's, I don't know, it was so strange to to be a part of a group that's you know, I guess you can say advocating for themselves and other people that represent that, and then walk I don't know 20 steps and then see somebody who doesn't support that, and far beyond that too, and then see other people that are in between that who are supposed to also represent something else, but are kind of, they make you feel like they're with them. So it's, I don't know, it was a strange feeling, but that's why I mentioned that. And going back to what you were saying about being arrested, yeah, it's an unfortunate reality. But and for me, I've always been about taking risk, and gambling in that way of like, because I don't say that lightly, but I say that with intentions of growing, and challenging myself, or taking a risk at like going to a school that I can't afford, or I can never pay for. So that's the gamble and risk that I'm talking about. But don't get me wrong, I've in my youth I made risks and gambles that weren't too positive either. That, like I said, I can't move like that no more, and I can't take those kinds of risks because that risk is unvaluable to me. It doesn't bring any value to whom I am and who I want to be, and it's something that doesn't represent me. And at the same time, it's something that bothers me, because no matter the way that you look at it, you understand the reality of it. It's not something that you choose. It's something that you're forced to kind of, even though it's a positive thing, to think like, oh, I shouldn't be doing those things and whatnot. But it dictates how you move in a lot of situations. Like even for me to be at a protest, or do other things, or go on a trail that you may possibly get arrested for. It's something that, like I said, it's like that person that's right here and reminding you like, oh, you can't do that because I'm right here and I'm looking at you, or I could get you. So it's and every other case is different. So some of us may get more consequences than others, and some of us have some may have a family to support, so it's so I feel like when you're younger, it's a much easier way to move and to be more free in that way if you're in that situation, because those consequences don't get me wrong, they'll affect your family members and things like that, but
you'll be all right.
It's a high risk when you're older.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I'm grateful that I thought that way. Because I think if I was reckless, I'd be a reckless ass motherfucker. Like, I'm not trying to like, let me turn this alarm off. I had an alarm set. I'm not trying to where was I going? I'm not trying to say I was a bad person, but I know that if I would have not cared a little bit, I would have not cared a lot, and I would have done some dumb shit. But it is what it is. I mean, you just gotta fucking live with it and make the best out of it. I don't like how people victimize themselves either. and say, oh, poor me, poor this. Yeah, I don't think that's good for progress, because then, you're just stuck in a muck for yourself, I feel. You got to look at your realities and try to get out, try to do better, try to work with what you got. I know some situations that are way harder than mine. A lot of situations are way harder than ours, than mine, than all that. But and I know some people don't have that mental fortitude to get out, and unfortunately, that's for them. But I don't know. I've never looked at myself as a victim, but it's just the reality, and you just got to work and get out.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling when somebody. I mean, it's good to sympathize and understand.
Yes.
But it's very different when somebody plays you as I don't know, just because
they're not doing nothing for themselves, and why
it goes far beyond that, like far beyond sympathizing and being understanding, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. Well, at least for me, because I don't want to. I think you should treat everybody the same almost, like I'm nobody special, or it is what it is, but I don't allow that to sort of be whom I am. Well, but even though I am that in paper and within this country, that doesn't mean that that's whom I am, at least I don't allow it to, because then it'll definitely dictate how I move, and I don't want to move with restrictions.
Yeah.
Unless we really hit a wall and we gotta find a different way to make it to the other side. But then not necessarily speaking about crossing a border within the country, but more of a like life goals. So it's because sometimes you could hit a wall as you move forward and grow, and it's fucking frustrating to be at that point and realize that. But it also helps, it also helps to keep moving, and if you have the will, there's a way, and sometimes that way is very difficult, and it gets more difficult when people around you don't support you, or maybe they don't understand that journey because they've never seen that path before. And if your son, daughter, or whoever may be, cousin or family member is in representation of that part of this country, maybe undocumented or immigrant community, and is going through a path that you may not understand, it's good to support them, because it's a tough journey, and it's a journey that even yourself you're navigating blindly at times, and for me, at times it's like a weird representation of literally crossing the border, walking, because it's a weird place, because at the same time you could still get deported here, as you could get deported in the border. So as you go through that journey to go to a better place, and as we're here going through the journey to get to a better place, we still have those scenarios that can happen, that represent that have very much represent that, which is I don't know, it's weird,
Yeah, man. This immigrant stuff is crazy. It's like it's weird. I really don't like talking about it so much, because I could see why it could be interpreted as victimizing.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean.
But at the same time, I also feel that it's sometimes good to talk about it, at least for me, in a sense, to help others
understand.
Help those who don't understand. maybe a little bit better if we could explain it. And for those who are, to also better understand and be able to move differently, because it's when you're young and you're in that situation, it's difficult to understand because I mean, I don't want to generalize, experiences, but I I've seen and obviously for myself as well, the situation of family members whom maybe it's difficult for them to understand that their children could go far beyond even being undocumented or being an immigrant. They could go far, and it's, even though they may have a lot of barriers and difficulties, that doesn't mean that they can't reach that the same finish line as the other person next to them who may have more or less than they do.
I could speak on that personally, because my parents didn't tell me anything. They wanted me to do whatever, you know what I mean? But after I got shut down because I wanted to do architecture, I still think I one day want to go to school for that. But I went to the first school to do that, and it was too much money because I was undocumented, so I couldn't qualify for any grants. I couldn't do anything for this specific school, and it was gonna be like $60,000 a term or something like that, and I had to be paid because I was undocumented. I had to be paid before the term. So, and where was my family gonna come up with $120,000 every 9 months? Or $120,000 or $1,800 or $180,000 every 18 months. You know what I mean? Like that's not not for the regular working class. So after that I got discouraged, and I was like, man, fuck that. What am I gonna go to school for? I'm not, like, my ignorance drove my lifestyle at the time. What I did, because of, I felt like, I'm an immigrant. I'm not gonna be able to do shit. They're fucking asking this for us a crazy amount of money. I'm not gonna make this. So why even go to school for something that I don't want? This is what I want, and this is what it costs. I'm not gonna go to school just for nothing and pay X amount for nothing, something I don't want. Now in retrospect, I wish I would have went to school, because I know it was possible, and I know I could have done other things if I wanted to, and even architecture was possible in a way longer process, but it was possible. But it's that's when I first realized, like, oh, I'm undocumented. You know what I mean? Like, that's when I first realized, like, oh, I really have less options. This is what it feels like to be undocumented, Yeah. And it sucked, again, and I'm not, this is just for understanding, not for victimizing. This is just for understanding. It sucked. It was like, fuck, and I didn't do shit. I was discouraged. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? I was like, I guess I'll go to community college and get my fucking general ed. But then I was like, I don't want to, after that, I was like, I don't want to go to school. If I'm not going to go to school for what I want, I don't want to go. So then I looked up, like, what colleges accepted undocumented students, because I didn't know if you could go to any fucking community college. So, but I ended up just going straight to work instead of doing all that, And,
that happens very often, and whether the system is set up that way or not, it's set up in a way that pushes back a lot of people, and just like your experience, and even mine, it was the same thing.
I should have done my research. That's my fault. You know what I mean? To a point, it's my fault. I should have done my research. I should have if I really wanted it, I could have. When there's a will, there's a way. My will wasn't strong enough to find the way at that time. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to, again, saying, oh, I get what you're saying with the system, but I also don't agree when people are like, "Oh, the system fucked me." Like, if when there's a will, there's a way.
No, I know.
If I would have wanted to enough, I would have fucked the system and made it out.
But I'm talking about large numbers. You know.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying, me.
Yeah, and it's the I guess I can share my experience. My experience with it was almost the same. Um, but it, and now that I think about it, now that I just not that I just thought about it, but being who I am today and thinking about it is crazy because even being in high school, I had no understanding of what college was or represented or and to be real that it even existed, you know, and not that it's something that because it's difficult. How could you strive for that if you don't even know it exists or you understand it? And I don't know if I was or have been the only one to feel that way, but it's it's weird because the reason why I was that way was because my representation and my references, my references that were around me didn't represent that. So school school as a element kind of faded away after elementary school, so it's something that wasn't relevant to me besides what I was currently doing, which was high school, so that was my only reference. And besides that were just kind of words that were thrown at me of like continue, and for me, the bridge to maybe where I am today was literally a painting, the painting that I did of the Virgin Mary that Michelangelo built, sculpted. It's a crop of it, and that painting was the one that got me to talk to the career center, and then the career center talked to me about furthering my education and whatnot. Because at the time I was, I guess, trying to get in the idea.
Wait, are you gonna end up auctioning that piece or no?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. It depends.
I'll save. I need it right there up at the front center. I'm saving that spot. Yeah, you can't see it, but
it fits. But yeah, I guess at that moment I was just having a good time and playing soccer, and I kind of wanted to be a professional soccer player, and that was kind of it. There was nothing much to it. I mean, I was creating, but it wasn't anything serious. I didn't really have I don't know. I guess I was just really in the moment, and after they spoke to me about education and whatnot, it was something that really opened huge doors for me mentally and as a person and as whom I am, and going back to that story of that painting was supposed to give me a scholarship. Not necessarily that, it was other pieces too that were involved, but and I'm not gonna mention which school, but that school didn't award me the scholarship because I was undocumented. And after that, I was supposed to get a full ride to another school for soccer, and they hit me up saying that they could only offer me half of it because I was undocumented. And so that didn't happen. And after that, I started working I don't remember what it was. I think it was either construction or a warehouse job. And the warehouse job was, I was working like 12 hours a day, and not all weekends, but most weekends were 7 hours a day. So it was, man, that was the worst time I've ever had in my life. I mean, construction too, but it was something that, for me, as whom I am, it was something like being stuck in a chair and not being able to get up and do anything.
Yeah.
It was like if I was stuck in a room that had nothing, and I had nothing but my thoughts. So that's really what I did. I kind of worked in my own head, and I kind of prepared what I wanted to do, and I just like thought a lot about it, of like where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And eventually, I was also there for financial reasons, to help my family. And as we got more situated, I was able to mention that I wasn't gonna do that no more, and if they could help me and support me into me continuing education. And at first it was a bit difficult because you have somebody come at you saying, I guess in some many ways, saying this money isn't gonna be here no more, and now instead of me giving you, I'm gonna take away. So it's something that a lot of families can't afford, and it's difficult, because when you offer that, or not offer it, but when you propose that, it's a very close room for failure. And when you're proposing so much, it puts you in a situation where you really can't fail. You have to succeed. And I think that puts a lot of pressure into the youth, especially the immigrant youth, and lower income immigrant families.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened, and I did go. The first one that I applied to was Valley College, and is it Rialto? No,
San Bernardino.
San Bernardino.
It's like Colton, San Bernardino area.
Yeah,
I think it's in Colton.
Actually, I'm lying. No, the first one I went to was Chafee in Rancho Cucamonga, and I didn't start school. I started playing soccer there. So I started playing soccer mid classes, I believe, and the coach got me all my classes. So I was just playing, and I was like, yo, this is my situation, blah blah blah. I don't got much money, this and that. And they were like, oh, well, we're gonna try to do this, we're gonna try to do that. And I was like, okay, cool, do what you need to do, and I'll do what I need to do. And right before classes started, I remember getting a phone call from somebody from another school, which was from the coaching staff from that school. And during that time, they were like, yo, I heard you're playing here and there, whatever, at some other school. I was like, yeah, that's true. And they're like, yo, so why don't you come play for us, this and that. And I remember this person trying to negotiate in some ways, and I had no idea what Chafee was gonna offer, if they were gonna offer anything, because I don't think they really can, besides helping you get classes or priority registration and things like that, or maybe helping you fill out a form that could get you some money. I don't know. But when I was in this call, I remember being like by the porch, and then I was like, yo, well, like, they're helping me financially and this and that. I was like, so I'd very much rather stay with them than go play with you, even if you have a better team. And they were like, oh, okay, well, we'll. So he was like, we'll offer you the same deal, and then we'll even pick you up. And they did. uh, yeah, it was funny. I wasn't even that good, as a player. I don't think as other people were. I mean, I guess I was decent, but I didn't feel I was that good to be getting that kind of treatment. And yeah, I just literally the next day I went to go play with them because it was nothing against where I was, but like I also couldn't afford it. I had no money, so that was way better than where I was before. Even getting a ride, that was a lot, because how are you gonna get there? And
who picked you up? Coach?
No, it was a player. I think you may know him, but then
that's fucked up. He assigned somebody, like, hey, you're gonna go pick up this guy. Yeah. And then this guy, the dude that probably drove, is sat on the bench.
I don't know, but but we I mean, I really don't know because I didn't really play till the season started. I didn't play because I left school.
But
so the story is I did started construction. I went in Chafee, went to Valley, and after that, no, it was the warehouse because I remember being at Chafee the first day of class, and I had to go. I had a late class because I was working 12 hours. So right after that shift, I had to drive to class. And I was like, yo, I can't even do this no more. So that's when I stopped school. And or it might have been construction, then the warehouse, because I left Valley and then did the warehouse thing. And after finishing the warehouse thing, I got a call from one of our friends that was playing at RCC, and he was like, yo, you should come play here, blah blah blah, like we got a good team, this and that. And I was like, oh, word, okay. And I did go, and luckily I was out of the warehouse, which by the way I got fired because for some dumb reasons, but mostly because when you're a lot of places, when you're not so much necessarily because you're undocumented or you're getting paid under the table or whatnot, or using a fake social security card, but well, a lot of these, maybe some of them, I shouldn't say a lot of them, but some of them, what they do is they hire people through a certain amount of time and then they let them go and just recycle people, because it costs less to do that.
Around their pockets.
So they fired me because of that, and that's when I went to RCC, and RCC, that's when I got the actual school experience because I had never really started it, and that kind of allowed me to understand a lot, and kind of like you say, of kind of hitting that wall of like, oh, I'm undocumented or whatnot, or that experience. And because I don't know if this is the case, but a lot of undocumented immigrants pay international fees for schooling, and a lot of the times that international fee is a very large amount to somebody who may not have the funding. So it's difficult to be a full-time student when the classes are so fucking expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, people have responsibilities, or maybe you gotta get a job or two to continue your schooling. So, that happened, and luckily for me in 2011, the Dream Act passed, and that helped a lot,
Yeah.
So that literally changed everything for me as a student and as a person. And what it did for me is it like threw down a lot of barriers that were ahead of me, and I was just able to run straight. I mean, it took a lot of effort and it took a lot of dedication and determination, but it was up to me at that point, when I was walking that path and kind of saw what happened. It's kind of like Moses when he opened the ocean, and it was up to me to just run, and that's what I did, and that's what has allowed me to be where I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this whole, it's who we are, in a way. This whole immigration shit, and I was every Monday I'd wake up and try. Right now, during these times, it was on the Supreme Court agenda to decide on it, the DACA shit, and I'd wake up every Monday and I'm like, oh, let's see if they fucking decided.
Oh yeah.
And nothing, and then nothing, and then nothing. Every week was nothing, and then it came down to these final 2 weeks, which it was Monday, Thursday.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that first week of the last 2 weeks, the Thursday they decided, that it stays essentially, and yeah, I mean, my girl would ask like, what would happen if they decide to take it away? And I'm like, well, they have all our information. If they wanted to, they could just knock on everybody's door and say, hey, let's go. But then there'd be nothing anybody could do, really, Yeah. And I mean, obviously, with them having it with the proper warrant and stuff to come and get you, but which I'm sure they would. I mean, they wouldn't just come. Or the other option was, which I doubt would have happened, but a part of me believes maybe it would have because of the elections. They would have, if that would have been canceled, because politics is just the fucking game. I think they would have passed something. The Republican side would have passed something. Like they would have offered something and passed it so that Trump could get the votes and get reelected. But if it would have not, if this thing would have went away, I don't think that would. The majority part of me thinks that wouldn't have happened. But yeah, I mean, aside from going over really our story and immigration and our experiences, I wanted to talk about the obvious stuff going on right now, which is the Black Lives Matter stuff. The police brutality stuff. And I think you and I have obviously shared the same idea as a whole, but we have different ideas inside of it. Like the other day when we were talking on the phone, when I forget what we were, we were not disagreeing, but we had different views on it.
What was it?
We were talking about how the podcast I had with Esteban, and how it was before the podcast, and now we were just talking about what I thought and how I wanted it to go. Like how I didn't want it to be a discussion or an argument and all that stuff. And then that kind of linked itself to us talking about Black Lives Matter and how I really don't remember what we were disagreeing on. Not disagreeing. We weren't disagreeing. We were just we genuinely just had different points of views or different ways of going about things. but in the essence, we agreed on what it was. I should have wrote it down or something, but I totally forgot, and I don't want to force it, but it'll come to me. But I think it's a little hard. One thing I do, like I try to push on people when I have this conversation is people who oppose all this stuff going on is the important thing is to understand. Whether you agree or disagree, that's another issue. But if you understand, that's the main thing. If you understand why all this is happening, like why the riots are happening, why the looted happening, what happened, why the protests are happening, you gotta try as much as you can to understand it. Because if you just blindly disagree with it, then you're causing the division. And a lot of the times, at least the conversations that I've had with people who disagree with this stuff, they've voluntarily decided to not understand. They didn't want to look into the other side. They just stood on their side and said, nah, you're wrong, pretty much. And not Esteban, but the other people I've talked to about this, they were saying that this was all agenda, blah, 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 and that the people who were protesting with this whole movement were causing division. And in my eyes, if you voluntarily decide to not understand, you're causing the division. Because you're just deciding to not listen, to not understand. Like you have, I don't. That's why I couldn't have conversations with them. They were turned into arguments. But it's important to understand the issue, and to understand why the statement of Black Lives Matter, and why it is Black Lives Matter, not all lives matter, not whatever, people. I don't want to say wrong things, but that's just, I guess that's just it. I think it's important to understand why. And as minorities who aren't of that community necessarily, I think it's, I don't want to say our duty, but almost, because that could easily be us. That could easily be somebody of the brown community or whatever minority, One thing that I think is pretty blatantly obvious, it's easier for the police to cause harm on a minority than it is on a white person. The numbers show it. It's obvious. And for somebody to just disagree with it because they decide to only look at one side of the issue, it sucks. That's the one thing, like in that conversation that I did have with him, I was telling him that it sucked that the people who agreed that police brutality is wrong, they only showed, during this whole protest, they only showed stuff that, people attacking other people during these protests, or people attacking the police, and not showing when police blatantly attacked people protesting peacefully and shit like that. But I just went on a rant. But what is your whole take on this thing? What? I know I went on a rant, but essentially I just wanted to get your view on this whole thing. I know we've talked about it aside of this, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to start with saying that all Black lives matter, and that if we can't um settle on that as a beginning um foundation of a dialogue and conversation with whomever, it's it's time for whoever can't get past that to acknowledge um I would say to acknowledge, to be able to acknowledge, to be able to listen, to be able to learn, and to be able to act after that. Um, Not necessarily that you need all those things to be able to have a conversation about it, but to be able to participate just as a human being. Because I believe that conversations are very valuable, but uh, acting and being are have much more value, you know, because conversations can allow us to see where you stand and where you know who you stand with, and but we need to do much more than having conversations to be able to help and be able to unite and in solidarity with them, because it's a fight that they shouldn't fight alone, and it's a fight that we should all fight with them. Because nobody uh, should be dealing with those things. And beyond that, I mean, you can ask me. I don't know what you really asked me, but I wanted to get started with that.
No, I mean, I just wanted to get your overall take because, and just just your overall take. No necessary, because it is such a broad issue. Just, you know what I mean? And it's my main thing. I guess is for me, of course, right? Everything fuck racism, fuck police brutality, fuck all that, right? But for me, you have to be able to know what you can and can't do, right? For me, the way I can attribute it, help, is by having conversations. Not necessarily on here, just in general with people of any idea, not of any idea, but we're talking about this specifically. But who don't agree with Black Lives Matter or whatever. Because aside from educating myself and knowing what I'm standing for, the best thing for me is conversation, because that's the beginning. That's where the seed is planted. You can't forcefully change somebody's mind. Their mind has to be changed out of will. You can't force and say no. You have to believe what I believe. So for me, the most important thing is conversation, because it's the beginning. And depending on that conversation is whether or not in that moment this person might decide to change. Not change, but educate themselves.
I mean, I do know.
Obviously, there's more action that can be done and has to be done. But for me, because I can't vote, because at the end of the day, that's, I mean, whether you believe voting is real or not, that's the only thing that will make change, is educating yourself on. It's every individual, not as a whole. Every individual has to educate themselves on their city, their council men and women, their DAs, everything that has to do with their city, everything that has to do with their county, and everything that has to do with their state. Each individual person that can and should vote, should vote, and they have to do it with an educational vote, because that will bring the changes in the laws and the regulations and all that. Thing like, for example, I forget, maybe he was the DA of Atlanta, but the week or the month before, the dude that got shot at the Wendy's, he had said that to use a taser against a police officer is a deadly weapon, he pretty much said that's a green light for the officer to use his gun. And what happened, I think a week or a month later, whenever it was, that exact scenario happened. And what did he have to do? He had to retract his words, because a black man got shot dead by a police officer when the dude used the cop's taser against him. You know, obviously there's so much more. How the fuck did the taser end up in his hands? Why the fuck did the cop was able to arrest him properly without all that happening? Like, all right, all these things go on, but what I'm saying is, if this is what the DA said a week or a month before, because that's the regulation or the law in this city, in that case, by law, I'm not agreeing with this, but by law, the cop acted accordingly. Again, I don't know if that's the regulation or the law, if that's, like, you know what I mean, if that's what it states. But if it is, if the DA was just saying what the law says in this city, is that if an individual uses the taser against a cop, then he has to go ahead and shoot. If this is what the regulation says, or the law or whatever, that's what the cop did, then the cop, unfortunately, by law, I don't agree with it, but there's nothing wrong, right? I don't agree with it, but what I'm saying is, if we as individuals look into these things, when it does come time to vote, we could vote for people who are pro or against these things, these regulations or these laws, and those things will change. So when something like this happens, because there was a big commotion and thing going around this dude who said a week or a month before that it was okay, and then a week and a month or a month after, whenever it was, I don't forget the time frame, the exact scenario happened, and now he has to say, oh no, and he charged him with murder. He charged the cop with murder. So now there's this big thing, like, what you just said a week ago that it was okay, now it's not. You know, like, decide. You know, I get that whole controversy. I don't agree that the cop should have fucking shot that dude down. That's fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? If a taser is a deadly weapon, then why did they use a taser in the first place against a person, a civilian, a regular, the population? Why is it only a deadly weapon when it's on the people's hand? Why isn't it a deadly weapon when it's in the cop's hand? You feel me? I don't fucking agree with it. But what I'm saying is, I think the most powerful thing we could do, aside from protesting, that will directly bring action, is voting, is educating ourselves in our community, in our city, in our county, and in our state. Because ultimately, that's what's going to bring change. We put people who we believe do the better thing for the community. We vote for those people. You know, because otherwise there's other people who we don't even know, we don't know of, we don't research, we'd never put in place, taking decisions that we don't agree with. You know, but for me, I feel that having conversations with people who don't agree with the whole movement or whatever, who are quote on the other side, is important because they'll I hope that by having the conversation and not having an argument, they'll understand some points. They'll understand where I'm coming from, and they'll agree with some stuff that I'm saying, and that could plant a seed for them to look into the other side, look into why there's protesting really, and not just willfully and voluntarily disagree and turn their cheek.
I'd say, in regards to having a conversation, as you mentioned, I think that it's a matter of defining and giving context to that conversation, because there's so a conversation is also time, and that time could also be spent on or invested on different things that can benefit that conversation. So what I mean by that is that, and I'm not even talking about, taking action, because that comes, that could come right after that, but or should, but I think that it's also, and again, I myself am still learning, and I like to continue to learn about this matter and about things that affect anybody in that matter. So I would say it's important to educate ourselves, first and foremost, not just about the law, but about who we are as a person and our values and our philosophy, and acknowledge biases and prejudices that have been lived with us that we may or may not understand, but see. So reevaluating ourselves and be able to deconstruct ourselves and our lives and our loved ones, or the ones that live closest to us, and the way that you were raised, and how do people act, not how they act, but how they are, the things they say, how they say them, how do they resonate with you, if they're racist comments or not, or any words that discriminate against anybody. And I think that it's good to go back to the roots and be able to take it from there, and while doing so, learning about history, learning about things, learning about being able to understand experiences of others, not just yourself, not just to be sympathetic and understanding, but to be able to not just participate in a conversation, but be able to help, because conversations do help, but action helps much more.
Yeah, but I feel that in order for somebody to dig into themselves and learn about themselves if that's how they've been all their lives, it's very difficult to change right away. You know what I mean?
but
Even if they see things on TV, even if they hear things on whatever, or see things on the internet or whatever, it's very hard because they already have this idea that they've had all their lives. So all of a sudden, I'm sure it happens, but it's very hard to just make that switch. That's why I feel that when you have a conversation with somebody who is understanding as well, who not just points a finger at you and tells you you're wrong, that's important, because then that's when that acknowledgement and that self evaluation comes. Because otherwise, it's very, very difficult, you know, to sit there and say, man, am I doing? A lot of people are too busy, too caught up in what the fuck they're doing to, or even not even care about self maintenance and self love. That's not, you know what I mean? And with that, if you care about that, then you'd be able to do that. You'd be able to say, oh shit, I might be wrong in my ideas. So what I'm saying is, that's why for me, the conversation is the seed to help all that grow. Because otherwise, from my point of view, it's very difficult to just, especially people who are hard set on those ideas, So that's why I say that's the best way I feel I can help, is by that conversation. A conversation. Like I said, not necessarily on here. Wherever, whenever.
To who? Or with who?
With anybody who needs, or not needs, anybody who, to me, seems like they don't understand or take the wrong idea of what's going on.
I mean, I also feel, if we digest it in that way, anything towards that direction is helpful. Towards that positive direction is helpful, and with intentions. But it is complicated.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of morals and ethics as well. So everybody understands that. I don't care who you are, you understand morals and ethics. And I think that even if you get a job and you need to be presentable or be nice or whatnot, you understand what that means, and you understand when you're doing bad, or when you're being hurtful or harmful, or when you're being hateful, or anything within, like, good or bad, like that space, because it may reflect on you keeping that job or not, maybe. So I feel like we understand, and it's a matter of being able to acknowledge where we stand, and be able to, people have a choice of whether or not to be in support or not. But whether or not that person is good or bad, that's a different story, because I don't expect everybody to be a good person, and for you to, if you're not a good person, it's gonna be very difficult to have that conversation, because, or any other conversation that deals with advocating for anything that is within that space. So, and I say that because I feel like when we talk about these things, it's very easy to generalize, like, the public and us, or people, of, like, a belief or where they stand. But even within our larger group or groups, there's always good and bad. and we can expect everybody to be on a positive note. And even if they agree with you on on whether it's Black Lives Matter or anything else, that is moving forward, it's that doesn't mean that they may be okay with a certain minority group. They may be discriminating somebody, and I feel like it's something that it's it's something that we should all revalue. And again, kind of like gardening, just going back to roots and be able to take out the ones that we don't need, because we are affecting ourselves at the end of the day. And it's it's a matter about really just uniting and moving forward for me. And for me, personally, I think that um, for me it starts with, obviously, with myself and with my family, and then moving into my community. and and I say that in regards to education and having small conversations here and there, because I can't unload them with like such a big subject, and me myself still understanding logistics and things like that. So for me to be able to even translate it in Spanish, and to properly educate them in the matter, even within my own community and my own culture, of racism within my own culture. So for me, I, I'm tackling those things because I can't move forward without my family moving forward with these things, and for me to feel comfortable that my family is with me on this, you know. And even so, like, I can tell you that the other day I had a conversation with my parents of because they're gonna start selling tacos again because they didn't coronavirus and whatnot. So I told them that if they would be down to do a to dedicate a day or two, or whatever they could afford to um, basically fundraise, and be able to donate the money, or however much, I was going to talk to them to what makes sense for them financially, to that they could afford to give. And but with intentions of doing that, purely and genuinely. And but I can't just come at them with that, because not that they don't understand, but they don't even understand a lot of the things that happen within our own community. So for me to expect them to understand something like that is irresponsible of me. So I have to give them context, and I have to tell them what's going on. And also for me, there's other things going on with that. And again, this is all personal things. Because their main source of education in world matter or locally is through news networks that are broadcasted through one tube, and that tube is a bit difficult because it's something that is not well rounded. So it's sort of like you constantly facing, like, holding somebody's face and pushing it that way so they could only see over there. So I have to come in and be able to show them, like, no, look over all of this. So and be able to point things out, and also, and for me to do that, I have to educate myself, and not just educate myself, but learn and listen, and uh, put myself in the back and try to understand as much as I can, because I'm not the smartest person, but I have to be able to do this, because if I believe in this, it's something positive. I feel like as that kind of person, I have to be well rounded. So all of my values have to reflect that. You know, if I'm against discrimination and injustice to human beings, and right now specifically with this conversation with Black Lives Matter, I have to be able to reflect that same energy throughout my life and my day to day and my workplace and whom I am as a friend, as a brother, as an uncle, as an employee, you know, and transmit that energy. I can't stand with it and over here have a flaw, you know. It for me, it doesn't make sense. For me, I feel like you really don't stand, or you choose to be I feel like it's imbalanced, and I think that it's you can't choose and pick like who you're nice to. And for me is you know, going back to educating is for me, it has been very important to educate myself and be able to educate, you know, my parents and my family about the matter, and for them to understand, and as well as me to understand, you know, and to understand how they understand, and then, you know, switching it back and forth of like even with ourselves or our communities, asking questions, or like, you know, what do you think about this, and be able to listen and understand that, you know, they themselves haven't had the education. So it's, you know, I have to be patient and careful, you know, careful with what I say, and be able to kind of, as I guide myself, guide them towards the direction that I'm going in, that I represent. So, you know, for me, that's extremely important. And as I do those things on the side, I'm doing things that I can to be able to participate and help. You know, whether it's petitions, calling, and things like that. You know, taking little breaks out of my day to be able to do these things, because they don't take much effort and time.
Yeah,
besides right. You, I don't know, reciting something that has been written down by somebody else to help you talk to a representative or send out an email or something like that. It doesn't take much. People spend 7 hours a day in their phone, you know, so why can't you spend, you know, 20 minutes doing something that can benefit somebody immensely? And again, you know, it's, yeah, sure, it is difficult, but you know, I don't see why you can't do it. And again, for me, it goes back to knowing what's good and bad. It's just the fundamentals of a person, and morals and ethics. And for me, it's just, I break it down into being, I don't know, I guess being good and bad. And I know that's, I don't like to speak, you know, because I always feel like there's a lot of in between spaces, but that's how I'm able to break it down right now, just for simplicity.
I get what you're saying when you say, you know, good and bad, or good from bad, or bad from good. Like you should know that, but I mean, obviously, Black Lives Matter. I think I'm talking about like racism in general. Some people choose to not be good.
Yeah. Like I said, you have a choice, and
but
understand.
Not everybody. If you're submerged in this world, if somebody's born in this world and knows nothing but this world, then they don't know.
No, but that's being technical though.
No, I know, but that, yeah.
Because that's
No,
because
yeah,
I myself have even those things that are small shit that I may be participating in that's not helpful.
yeah,
But that's something that has been embedded through culture, or maybe like the education system in Mexico, you know. But that's something that has been founded through like colonialism and shit like that. So it's like those things you have to dig deep to be able to take them out and be able to understand them, and you know, get fucking rid of them. But you know, for me, at a surface level, you understand when you're good or bad to somebody.
yeah. But I think the important for me, it it can be done in like again in subject of racism in general. It can be done and it has been done. There's a cat by the name of Daryl Davis. Joe Rogan had him on, and he was talking about how he helped convert over 200 KKK members, right? Grown adults who've chosen that life, and he's helped them educate and get out of that life, right? But that's very difficult. What I'm saying is educating everybody, right? But it's hard when you're born in that world and you don't know nothing but that world. That's when education is even more valuable because somebody already chose to go the other way. You feel me?
Well, I say education is very valuable because education starts at home. You know.
Yeah, but when your home is
with,
just
no, I mean with our children.
Yeah.
And with teachers in elementary school, and you know, so on and so on. So if we can all align to, you know, to those values, we, you know, the next generations will be much better, you know. And obviously there's parts of the world that is difficult to reach, but you know, we need to uplift everybody because we can't continue to be harmful towards anyone, you know, just for malicious reasons. And you know, there's so much more that we can do and invest our time in.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. I just, I think this is what we were talking about when I was saying that we had different points of views, I guess.
What do you mean?
Remember how I was saying earlier that over the phone we were like, no.
But what's the difference?
That you're saying that everybody, I feel that what you're saying is that there shouldn't, how do I phrase this? That there can't be all this racism. Like, I feel that what you're saying, how do I phrase this? Because in my head is different. I feel that what I'm saying is focus on those who don't know.
Yeah, but how can you do that when you haven't worked on yourself?
Oh yeah, no, of course.
You know, I mean, yeah, I believe that, but we have to work on ourselves first,
Yeah.
before we can even speak about it. And again, you know, I can't speak on the matter. I would rather have somebody that represents that community speak on the matter.
Yeah.
Because it brings more value, you know, and as representation first and foremost, you know, I'll stand next to them and you know, support, but I feel like it'll benefit everybody if somebody within leadership in that
Yeah.
community, represents. Um, and I could only, like, even here, I could only say where I stand and what I believe, and and what I can do for it and to help. Um, but aside from that, that I very much feel more comfortable with that.
With having somebody else speak, like somebody of that community, somebody of leadership of that community. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Fuck. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you about, because it's a very complex issue, and I know you were thinking about, or you came up with like this. What would you call it? What you were sending me were the black screens that you sent me and that you posted. The message.
For the network.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
No, what would you call it? What would you call that you created? Just a message?
I would call it a letter. It's a letter to those networks, and it's a letter to my community.
Yeah.
And that's why it's in Spanish, and it's also a letter to the outside communities, because, and I don't mean to divide communities in that sense, but for me it's easier to explain to the Spanish speaking community and also the English speaking community. For me, I was able to speak to three different people, which would be the network, my family, my community, and my friends and other people who may not understand it.
Yeah.
But speak English.
Yeah. I mean, what I was saying was that I know you were thinking pretty deeply about this whole situation, and as people of the brown community who, I mean, I've experienced police, not brutality, but injustice, I guess you'd call it, in the lowest form. Or
a lot, or
not a lot. I'd say under 5 times. But I've experienced it. You know what I mean? Fuck, what was I getting to? Oh yeah, I was just saying that having this conversation, I wanted to have this conversation because I know how much you were involved in your own self about it, with this whole thing and putting out this letter. And obviously once everything was happening, I took the time and looked into everything as much as I could have, and because it matters to me. It matters to me because we're all human beings. We're all fucking equal. We're fucking one people. There should be no discrimination. There should be no racial injustice, or if you're bad, you're bad no matter whatever. If you're good, you're good no matter whatever. And I felt the need and the urge and the responsibility to do my research and, like you said, educate myself and know as much as I can about what's going on and how I can help and what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And even then, we don't know everything. But I feel that it's a responsibility of, especially every minority, to understand what's going on and do their part to help, to aid, to advance progress.
Yeah.
And then also for the, I mean, I don't want to make this because I feel like even saying, oh, for white people, like, it's racist too. For me, like, you're causing some type of division, like, in a sense. But yeah, for people who don't really see why this is happening, to educate themselves even more. Take the time to educate themselves, to learn about the discrimination throughout history, learn about the injustices that's happened, learn about the percentages, learn about, if that's what you care about is numbers, learn the numbers, learn, educate yourself in every which way that you can, because it's important. I mean, everybody needs to do their part, whether you're black, brown, white, green, yellow, whatever, whatever. Everybody, we're all one. We're all.
Yeah, we need to learn.
Unity and uniting should be the goal.
Yeah, we need to learn on how to be an ally. For the movement, and how to properly be an ally and understand it, and understand its its impact. And for me, I could break it down into, like, if this was a classroom and we all had chairs, but not everybody had the same chair. We were all in the same class, we're all in the same room, but a few people have different chairs, and these chairs are kind of comfy. They move, they have little wheels, and we can sit for long periods of time. But let's say me and you didn't have those chairs, and everybody else had these chairs, and we would complain about them. Maybe not complain, but like advocate for newer chairs, and for at least the same ones. And people just didn't understand how uncomfortable it was to sit in these chairs, and how much our backs were hurting, and how many times we needed to get up, because we couldn't move this way and rotate this way. We needed to get up and then go around. So it was extra work for us. And every time we would get up, our backs were hurt even more, because the chairs were fucked up. And our legs were hurt because they were so hard, And people were like, man, you guys are so annoying. You guys complain too much, because, like, they don't understand that our chairs are fucked up. I mean, they can see them, but they just don't care, because, they're cool, they're comfortable. And some people do care. Some people are like, yeah, get them some new chairs. But then maybe it costs them. I don't know. But I think, and that can translate into many things that are going on, even with me and you as undocumented, because it could be a room full of friends and family who do have citizenship in this country, and we don't. And when it comes time for some kind of voting, they're like, well, it's like, if we're still talking about the classroom, the professor is standing in front, and they're like, okay, well, how many, if a lot of you raise your hand, we'll get them new chairs. And if our friends that are sitting closest to us that do have nice chairs, they're like, well, if I raise my hand, like, it's not gonna matter, so why should I even raise my hand?
Because they're not gonna get them anyway.
Yeah, they're like, they're not gonna get them to you. Why should I waste my time raising my hand? And maybe raising their hand costs them something, time, whatever. But in this scenario, I guess it gets simplified.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for me, I break it down like that because it's kind of, that's how it kind of feels. So, and you can translate that into different scenarios, even within the Black community, and with us, because it's like, yo, like, you're my homie and you still don't raise your hand, when I can't raise my hand, because I can't vote.
Is that what you interpret with this piece?
What you mean? Well, yeah, and then until, like, maybe
ya ven la de veras, then they're like, oh shit, I should have done something.
yeah, because now it is affecting them because we're no longer there, let's say. So it's like, and now they want change, but like, we were there the whole time and they never raised their hand.
Yeah.
And for me, it's frustrating at that level because, I have friends who may or may not vote, and for me, even to that level, whether it matters or not, it matters to me, because it affects me differently than it may affect them differently.
Yeah.
And even to a simpler level of like not like, oh, you got my back or shit like that, but just of like being understanding. And that's why I mean of like being well-rounded, and that's why for me it has been a battle since like I was really young, and for me it started with women being abused by men, and seeing that growing up, and just having that anger and having like not being able to do anything because I was so young, or not being able to do as much as I wanted to, because but like, I'm gonna get I wasn't really able to help. So having that with me, I've always just advocated for people that are being hurt in that way, whether it's a woman, anybody from the LGBTQIA plus community, the black community, any community in that matter, that is being discriminated against, or not treated as they should be treated, so that's why I've always been down to help and protest and do all that, and advocating and do much more than I can. And I've had to check myself a lot of times too, because I also grew up in a community that is very harmful and hurtful and discriminating and machista. So I had to reassess and reevaluate a lot of things, not that I was that, but that I didn't want to have those things with me, because they didn't represent me. So it's been a long time since I've been in that, since I've had that energy, and again, I can't expect anybody to be in that or have that same energy. I have to be sympathetic as well, but I also needed to be able to know how to speak, to different people, because it's, words are very powerful, and they have a lot of value. So if you say the right words, it may help, and also you may hurt. So it's also good to understand that.
Well, yeah, man. I think you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
There's a little fucking gnat. But yeah, I mean, I think our messages are pretty clear. Well, yeah. You good?
Cool. Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully, you guys could, if you guys, I don't know, I don't like putting myself in a position like this, but if you guys could take anything out of the conversation, good. And it's all about unity, it's all about progress, it's all about equality, and no matter what community you are from or what you believe or feel or whatever, you should be treated equally, or what group, race, whatever. you know. So, yeah. Much love, guys.